great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there.
I was the shyest kid in the class, always sitting in the back, never raising my hand. I had perfected the art of moving in the shadow of the person sitting in front of me so as not to be noticed. I was not only shy, I was an introvert, which are two different things. Shyness is about a fear of judgment. Don't look at me, you may not like what you see. Whereas introversion is a measure of personality. Introverts recharge through spending time alone. Their opposites, extroverts, recharge through spending time with others. I sat in the back of the introvert section. Since I was so good at not being noticed, I excelled at dodgeball. I would be the last person standing on my side of the line, which means inevitably all the balls would turn toward me. I still have a scar on my knee from the time I got taken down by about 50 balls, pelting me from all angles. So for the most part, I got really good at ducking. However, we can't always avoid the balls being flung at us. Sometimes we get hit in the face, but those are the moments that make us faster. When I was in 6th grade, my school, a Christian school, was invited to a national TV game show of Bible trivia. The school selected its 2 best Bible scholars and drilled these students for weeks on really obscure Bible questions. Everyone was pumped we were going to be on national TV. So the day of the game show comes, the buses roll in, and then disaster strikes. One of the contestants doesn't show up. The teachers scratch their heads. What are we gonna do? We can't go to this game show with only one contestant. Out of nowhere, a kid says, Stacey can do it. She's a brain. Chinese people know everything. To my horror, everyone started agreeing. A teacher approached me with a very determined look on his face. Stacey, you have to represent the school. But I don't know Bible trivia. You'll think of something. We're counting on you. I didn't press the buzzer once. I think the worst part was the bus ride home. Nobody wanted to sit by me. But in those moments, bouncing up and down in that squeaky bus seat, I realized something. No one else had volunteered to take that spot. And given I was an unwilling participant, I had just saved the school from the humiliation of not showing up at all. I had been hit in the face with a very large and painful ball, and I was still standing. From that moment on, I decided not to care so much about what people thought. What mattered was what I thought, and I thought I was kind of awesome. I began to shed my shyness. 2.5 years later, I graduated as valedictorian, and I didn't look back. So I emerged from middle school, a slightly less shy, slightly more resilient person than I had been. But I would have to be hit by several more balls before I could finally make peace with my introvert self. I would have to learn not just how to recover from a hit, but how to catch. We live in a society that values extroverts with their outgoing personalities and their on-their-feet thinking. The college admissions process exemplifies this bias, valuing students who have held leadership positions that too often go to extroverts. You see, people are quick to vote for leaders based on personality versus character, even though there is no correlation between being a good talker and having good ideas. I too bought into this idea that being an outie was better than being an innie, and thought I needed to transform myself into that successful extrovert I knew I should be. When I went to college, I joined a sorority, even though I don't like partying. I went to law school, even though I didn't like debating and confrontation. In fact, I found myself longing to return to that old trick of moving in the shadow of the person sitting in front of me, not because I was shy, but because I wasn't comfortable answering complicated legal questions on the fly. I prefer to spend some time thinking about it, alone. But that wasn't possible in law school, where everyone sits in stadium-like seating with their names printed in bold and cards placed in front of them, so the professor knows exactly who they're picking on. Some of you lawyers know that's true. So, I decided I would take the ball in my own hands. I've had 3 young adult books published, with another on the way. They all feature girls of color, girls who have historically been voiceless. Girls of color face the double hit of racism and sexism, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the children's section of the library, where you are more likely to find an elephant or a cat, sometimes wearing a hat, than you are a person of color. When I was growing up, we were virtually absent. The Cooperative Children's Book Center, which measures the number of books by and about people of color, found that over a 21-year period, only 10% of children's books had any diversity at all. This despite our population being almost 37% diverse. When we don't see ourselves in books, we are taught we can't be the heroes of the story. We are taught that our experiences don't matter, that we don't matter. And it's just as important that kids living in homogeneous neighborhoods learn about all the richness of culture that exists around them, because then they too can learn that we have more in common than differences. They can learn to see beyond stereotypes. Books should be mirrors in which we can see our reflections, as well as windows through which we can learn about the lives of others. So a group of authors, friends, and I decided to do something about this disparity. We organized a hashtag campaign where we invited people to tweet reasons why we need diverse books. The hashtag went viral, getting over 82 million hits in a single day. We Need Diverse Books is now a nonprofit organization that advocates for changes to the publishing industry that will lead to books more reflective of our community. We do this through mentorships, awards, and grants for writers and illustrators of color. In fact, one of our first grants was given to a young writer named Angie Thomas, who used the money to buy herself a computer to finish her manuscript. Her manuscript went on to become a best-selling book called The Hate You Give, which was released as a major motion picture last year. In the years since the campaign, the number of books with diversity has begun to rise. In 2017, the percentage tripled from the year in which we started our campaign. We are making a difference. I often wondered if I would have been faster at catching balls if I had seen myself more in books. I think the answer is yes, which is why I continue to write stories about girls with small voices. And so this is my last takeaway. Once you've caught the ball, learn to throw it back, but throw it back your way. You don't have to take someone out like a bowling pin. You don't even have to throw it. You can pass it along to someone who needs it, someone who is prepared to take it. You can show someone that the ball has other uses besides hitting. Once you embrace and nurture your small voice, you will realize that small voices make powerful echoes, and those are enough to change the world. Thank you.